With AI, all companies and clients, they think everything will be fast, will be quick, will be cheaper.
There are no markets. Markets do not exist. There are needs of people.
Most of the founders, especially in the tech industry, they come with the high expectation that we will build, I'm sorry for the word, unfuckwittable brand from day one.
Purpose is built through connections. Connections are built through quality insights. What AI is not good is that to achieve these insights, we need this human connection, and we drive it from our experience.
What I can advise and what I can say regarding how to use AI in that very early stage is just to use it as a tool to help you generate more ideas. If we can take an example with great brands like Nike, Airbnb, they are the kind of transformational brands, but they created new human beings.
Every culture has the sense of belonging.
Local narrative brings another dimension of differentiation, which is important in the positioning. You cannot position successfully without being different in any way.
In reality, UX is also a branding role because you are communicating with people. The reason why people would use your mobile application, let's say, would be because they feel good while they're using it.
Welcome to the latest Recursive Roundtable. Today we've got a conversation I'm really excited about, how we can create successful brands in the AI era. Building a great brand used to take many months, lots of creativity. Nowadays, anyone with an AI assistant can seemingly do it in an afternoon, or at least they think they can. And even without getting into agentic shopping, more and more people are using chatbots to discover new products. And in a chatbot, you have no logo, no typeface, no real marketing message. So the big question is what's really left of a brand and how the process of building a great one is changing in the AI world. To discover the answers of those and many other interesting questions, today I have three amazing guests. Each of them has worked on multiple category-defining brands, and they have close but still quite different perspectives on how we can build great brands. So we have Zlatina Petrova, also known as Zlati, founder and creative director of Brandly. They're the company building the UX and UI for AI companies, VC funds, startups, and they just got named as top 5 branding agency in the Dribble community, which is quite a big deal. So congrats, Zlati.
Thank you.
We have Plamen Motev, who is the creative and operational director at Fontfabric. He has over 10 years of experience into branding, but with more focus on bespoke typography. And he has shaped the brand stories for the likes of LVMH, Lipton, Silverstone, and he has quite a unique experience when it comes to the Bulgarian market. And we have Kiril Hadjidinev, who has spent over 25 years building the marketing and growth engines behind multiple brand portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars across Europe, across the Middle East. He has built some of the most amazing brands in Bulgaria and Saudi Arabia and all those markets. And nowadays, he's sharing those lessons with others as a strategic advisor. My name is Etien Yovchev. I'm co-founder and managing director of the Recursive. Myself, I spent the past 10 years helping tech companies build their stories from zero and then enter new markets. So I've got a lot of questions, and let's dive in. So to get the whole conversation started, I'm really curious, how has each of your jobs evolved in the past 3-4 years? Like what's different, what's been automated already, and what do you think it will stay in even 10 years from now? Zlati, maybe you can start.
Yes, well, It's a quite interesting question, to be honest, because what I've noticed from my perspective, specifically in the field of design, is that when we introduced AI into the scene of design, out of the sudden, people start having expectations that everything should happen super fast, super quick. And when you are a creative person or a creative team and you just want to spend some time, go through the idea, go through the concept, like we say in Bulgaria, to sleep over the idea so that it can become more clear into your mind, people get very impatient toward that thing. So maybe from my perspective, the biggest shift that happened after AI became so popular these days is that we have to adapt, we have to work fast, we should deliver quickly, and at the same time trying to keep the balance to build brands in meaningful way, which is quite of a challenge. And I think also Plamen and Kiril would agree with that, because branding is a long process. It's not a process of just writing a couple of prompts and take whatever ChatGPT or Claude is giving you, but also it's a process of how we communicate, how we are actually building the thing before it's even a thing. This is a question that stands out for everybody. So for me, the change is how we will answer that question from marketing perspective, creative perspective, design perspective as well.
Again, very interesting question. I will deal it from the perspective of marketing. And let's say that in my years of experience, a lot of people don't understand what marketing is as such. So the foundations of marketing in the last years have not changed. A lot of people do not understand what a brand is by definition. And this is where the change actually happened, because a lot of people, they are able these days by the AI to generate logos, to generate visuals. And this is far away from brands, and we'll discuss about that. These are just elements from a big puzzle. So the shift in accessibility of building brand lookalikes is something that the people think that they do better and that they can manage themselves and they can grow and build for the future, which unfortunately is a fake reality, and I would say a AI reality. So this is the shift of change, not the foundations of the marketing, but accessibility to create things that look like brands, and this is giving the people, the creators, a bit of a fake feeling that they are dealing with brands and they are developing brands. This is the biggest change.
I agree with that. And also, if I can add a little bit of my sense of contribution to that topic as well, branding, from my perspective and experience, is actually a mirror of the most human thing we all have as human beings, and this is to give a name. Like when we are children, we're giving name to our toys. We personalize them. The moment we give a toy a name, we just put some human qualities inside that toy. So brands are doing exactly the same thing with projects, with companies, so that when we think about branding, we should think about the perception people have about the company and the project. And exactly what Kiril is saying is also branding perspective, not only marketing perspective. We do deliverables. Yes, we have a logo. Yes, we have color palettes. We have typography. And I'm quite sure that Plamen can say a lot about the challenges in typography. And not only, but at the same time, we are missing the core brand message, the personality behind everything we see as an asset.
We don't own the brand. We own, as creators, the trademark. This is a big difference. You may own the trademark, but the brand is owned by your customers, by your consumers. So this is to validate Zlati's thoughts, that you need to build it in the mind of your prospect consumers or customers or clients or whatever, but we don't own the brand. Sorry.
No problem.
I am shutting up.
I can follow up. They already said everything that I wanted. No, I'm joking, of course. But yeah, I will follow up on that. Right now, I think the biggest misconception is exactly what Zlatina and Kiril just said. With AI, all companies and clients, they think everything will be fast, will be quick, will be cheaper. But the truth is that the brand is not a visual asset, like Kiril said. It's just a small part of it. The brand building is really long process. It's really detailed, and you need depth, you need time. And even with the help with AI, you still need more time. It's not a matter of single simple prompt. I had the chance, and I have the chance to work with one of the biggest agencies in some of our projects, and I don't see that they cut a lot of their time. Most of the optimization in-house in Fontfabric and in those agencies and these huge brand projects like rebranding of OMV, for example, which we took part of, is the research phase, the data processing. Yes, you can build with AI technology also additional layers of engagement with the audience, but the exact deep work, the depth comes from thinking, from critical thinking, from taste, from spending time with your customer, understanding the customer, which unfortunately AI cannot do right now, and I think we'll never be able to do in that way we as humans can. And from another point of my perspective is simply the type design thing that we're doing in Fontfabric as a part of the large brand picture. So the good thing about type design is also the worst thing about type design. That is so complicated. It takes from 7 to 12, sometimes months, and sometimes couple of years to make a single typeface. With many languages, with many functionalities, and why this is the good thing, because it's hard to be automated. So we are not cooked yet. And why is the worst thing? Yeah, because it takes time, but the reward comes a bit later, but it's huge.
We went really deep on the first question, so I hope you can block your calendars until 6 p.m.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so as Kiril mentioned, nowadays it's super easy to generate a logo, generate all sorts of brand assets, and it's super cheap. Especially if you don't know what you're doing, you can feel super confident that okay, here is a logo that I can do in 5 minutes. But personally, I think there is like a hidden cost, because the vast majority of those AI-generated brand assets, they don't have the foundation. There is no identity, no values, and on some level even no originality. So it becomes even more difficult to stand out, to have like a really differentiated brand. And even if you're following the right process, it's still more difficult to stand out, because there's like a million people who are generating AI brand assets. So my question to all of you is like, if you have to start you're starting a new project today, how would you go about building this differentiated brand from scratch? Let's say it's a new brand, it's not like something established.
As a matter of fact, this is the stage I'm in with the help of Zlati. So a lot of things to communicate.
Sorry
here.
for interrupting.
Yes.
So we're both in the same stage.
Yes, in the same stage. Yes, but just one step back when we talk about assets and identities and equities, we should know from the foundation point of view that the identity or the brand identity is the assumed positioning that the brand owner desires to imply into the potential clients. This is the brand identity. The brand assets are the elements around the brand identity, which is a very long discussion, but the elements of brand identity, which could be logo, which could be typography, it could be even the tone of voice, it could be the color coding, which help you describe your identity. But the equity actually is the ongoing fruits from the consistent building of the brand into the identity horizon. But if you are to build a brand, the foundations of the brand are the same. They are the foundations in deep human truths, deep human insights, the understanding or the decision which part of the human mind you would like to occupy, in which category of interest, and what are the deepest triggers and motivations that you would like to resonate so that there is a behavior towards choosing your brand. But it's always planted on a human basis, on a human truth. Marketing and psychology, they go hand to hand. And as I always say, there are no markets. Markets do not exist. There are needs of people. So when you are addressing whatever technological market, let's say, or a car market, you are not actually talking to cars. You're talking to people that they have a basic need of moving from place A to place B. But their motivations can be different from I would like to move because it's a functional thing for me, so I don't care about the car. Or while I'm moving, I would like to be as an expert, or have to be a show off, which are different motivational states. To wrap it all back, if I have to start and as we are starting a very new brand today on the market, we started from the human perspective and the motivations and the mind positioning, and then we move onwards.
In the end of the day, if we start a new one or we are making a rebrand, what we are aiming for is a sustainable result, a successful branding experience as a first start, because it's an ongoing process. Let's say it's a first iteration on the branding. If it's a new one or not new, the process is the same for me, and the success leans behind it started from the sales pitch, actually, from the initial sales calls even, then through the strategy phase. And this is something that I want to emphasize, because you don't use AI in that. Doesn't matter if your client is B2C, B2B, product or service, it's always human to human, like Kiril said. And when I'm making the sales calls, when we are pitching, when we are then going through the strategy phase, you have to win the trust of your client. They have to feel like partners with you, because they have to feel inclusive. They have to be involved in each step, because you're building this brand together. And I believe that clients are not ready to trust AI. So the initial phases, when you're kind of preparing the success of your project, you start the strategic phase, most importantly, but even the sales calls, the success leans to, and we are responsible for it.
If I just may add one thing on the one sentence on the AI and let's say the initial phase of brand definition. When I said that it should be based on a human insight, or very strong human truth, AI is not able to deliver this one, because still it's a human truth, and still it's a part of the living context. It's about years of experience and humanity. It can be a very helpful tool. You can ask a lot of information, structure, etc. But as a human truth, which you base the existence of a certain brand, it is quite difficult. Okay, some people are doing it or think that they're doing it, but it's quite difficult, and I would say impossible to base it the way that you would achieve a great result in resonance. Sorry, Zlatina.
Yeah, I completely agree with them. Maybe my approach is a little bit different, not only to AI, but also to branding as well. Because from my experience and the experience of Brandly working with so many different companies in terms of size, of industries, what I've noticed in the beginning of every project is that most of the founders, especially in the tech industry, they come with the high expectation that we will build, I'm sorry for the word, unfuckwittable brand from day one, which is not the reality. Actually, this is the reality check. The branding, like the guys said already, is a long process. So what I can advise and what I can say regarding how to use AI in that very early stage is just to use it as a tool to help you generate more ideas, to help you structure your ideas, but not relying on the output of the AI. I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, but you know, the database of AI is so huge. It has such a deep knowledge. I don't know anyone in the entire world that is that smart as the AI is. And that is true. But what the AI is lacking is creativity, because how we are creative as humans, and I'm curious what you guys think, but from what I've learned, our creativity is based on our skill to solve problems. Depending on how fast we can generate ideas to solve a particular problem, we can measure our creativity level. And when we create a brand and when we are letting all these creative juices flow, let's say, we are generating ideas. And when we are generating ideas, we use our knowledge. We use our emotional intelligence. We use our social experience, culturescape, like every single part of our life that builds us, the designer or the creative that we are, so that we can deliver the good result. What AI is doing is to replicate models and knowledge that they already exist. If we can take an example with great brands like Nike, Airbnb, they are the kind of transformational brands, and I would like to speak a little bit more about the kind of brands, especially in tech right now. But they created new human beings. Like before Apple, if you go to work dressing the way we are all dressed, maybe with the exception of you, most likely you will get fired. Like nobody would tolerate to go in a hoodie and jeans on work. So the idea, the perception of that creative entrepreneur, that creative person was created by the Apple brand. Same thing with Airbnb. Before Airbnb, we had the couch surfing. Maybe your audience who is old enough knows quite well what couch surfing means. But what Airbnb created is the digital nomad. I don't know if you are aware of the fact, but the word digital nomad is part of the branding of Airbnb. And what they sell and what they offer to their audience is the feeling to feel home everywhere around the world. So before Airbnb, we weren't talking about digital nomads at all. So the way branding should be handled from my personal perspective is just on a very early stage. Nobody knows your brand, nobody knows your product, maybe nobody would care, to be honest. So you can experiment, but you should have the real expectation that this is only a test. This is something we will apply maybe for a couple of months just to sort things out and then put some efforts into building a very nice brand. Or start with a good branding from the beginning. Of course, it's a matter of resources, of time, of money, of everything, but you should be always aware and align your expectations over that process of branding.
Yeah. Actually, what you're saying resonates quite a lot for me, because for me, ultimately a brand is the environment in which a business creates a relationship with its target audience, its target stakeholders. And I believe that at the end of the day, in relationships, the strongest bonds happen whenever the interaction creates a more desirable versions of one's self. So I feel more confident, more competent, more belonging, more curious, more whatever. And this is true in Apple, Airbnb, Nike, all of those really iconic brands. I'm actually really curious to understand from your experience, how do you practically create those brands that make people feel something? Do you have any interesting stories from your experience?
Now, probably my point of view will be something that the audience will hear for the first time, because typography is really typography is really unpopular sphere of the design. But yeah, typography, as any other visual asset, or has its attributes which can evoke emotional signals. Generally, when we curate type or make a bespoke typeface for a company, we use attributes like weight of the typeface, like proportions, like details, construction lines, contrast, and all that jazz actually forms this perfect meal, which is made specifically. Us as chefs, we make it specifically for this brand when we speak about branding and bespoke typefaces. I do have lots of stories because how I build bespoke typefaces is usually directly with people like them. From the strategic phase to the final phase, I connect the brand attributes, the tone of voice, the narrative, the whole communication assets, every single thing that the brand wants to say as attributes, as presenting the brand as a human with adjectives, etc. I'm trying to translate this into the typography world. The magic happens when this context fits perfectly. So the typography fits perfectly the context of the brand. In that way, the audience doesn't even think that there is some such thing as a bespoke typeface or typography at all. They just perceive the brand. So a lot of people don't even know what I'm working, and they don't know that there are type designers out there. They just think, are they just fonts in Windows or whatever? Why you're designing typefaces? And I'm just saying, yeah, but I recently had these clients, like for example, Progress Software. I've made their new brand typeface, and through the whole iterations, I took the full strategy of the company, presented visual directions, and they fell in love in one that they said, this is us. This typeface is us. That's because I've taken everything that they want to communicate and embedded it into those letter forms. Another recent, really curious example is, Levski as a football club. Mm-hmm. They recently rebranded, and I've made the typeface for the whole visual system. And interesting here was that, okay, they were the usual stakeholders that have to approve the typeface from the club, from the investors, etc. But the final approval actually came from the fans. Mm-hmm. So the fans had the word, and they said they love the typeface, and now you can see it on their new jerseys next season.
I can put a little bit from UX perspective and design perspective. Design specifically is a way to communicate with people. Yeah, it's visual. Exactly the same thing that Plamen is sharing is absolutely valid for the visual design as well. So when we want to evoke a particular message, we want to create an emotion inside people when they look at that typeface or when they look at that particular asset of the brand. So the colors that we will pick, the shapes, the visual language, the whole construction of the visual side of things of the branding is the way we will communicate that message and the way we will evoke the emotion and create emotional connection. In terms of UX, it's a little bit the same way. When we want, and this is an interesting thing, many tech founders think that UX is just, that semi-technical role that will make your application nicer for people to use. Like, it's a technical role. In reality, UX is also a branding role because you are communicating with people. The reason why people would use your mobile application, let's say, would be because they feel good while they're using it. Because your application is structured in a way that that allows them to finish a particular job, for example. And they feel good about it. They feel confident when using the app. They feel great because they can become more efficient if we have a productivity app, for example. And in that case, they will have more free time to do other things. Like we are working with that perception of the better self every human being has when we are doing UX design. And the bridge between branding and UX design specifically is that when we have that deep understanding about where we want to go with our brand, we know how we want our brand to communicate, which is the marketing side of things. And that reflects absolutely with 100% on the product itself. Like the product is part of the branding of the company. So when we say, for example, for us, to be trustworthy, to be clear our values for our brand, then we have to do the following thing. We should do a very easy to use interface of our products. Our website should be minimalistic because we talk about clarity. We talk about trustworthiness. Like, we should consider all these small details on the way so that our message is communicated clearly, visually, even before the marketing starts. What I experienced a lot, especially with tech startups, is that founders have a very strong idea where they want to go. They know their values, but at the same time, they're not capable, for different reasons, to communicate these values with their team. And we talk about, we are very good, we bring clarity, we bring innovation. And at the same time, what we see in reality is that they make compromises with the brand. They make compromises with the UX. They make compromises with the communication, like somebody's writing them on social media, they even don't bother to reply. And when we take collectively all these aspects, communications of a brand, then we can say, yes, we're building a strong brand. Because with the iconic brands, what they have in common is consistency. They're absolutely consistent in their messaging, in the way they communicate, in every single touch point a human being could have with a brand.
A follow-up question before I give the word to Kiril.
Yes.
So at an early stage startup, let's say there's 2 founders, maybe 1, 2 more people. Mm-hmm. How do you balance, the hyper speed, like things are changing every day, like even the target audience, the value proposition are evolving, like there is almost no resources. How do you balance that with, even building like a sustainable brand from zero? Because I think it even if you as a design expert don't jump in from day one, it's important that the company has at least some sort of vision about where their brand needs to go in the long term. So how do you balance all those startup realities with the design realities?
Design realities. Well, actually, it's not that difficult, to be honest, because if you are keeping everything on track, if you are doing even a proper documentation about your brand, you will know how to evolve it step by step. When we are talking about branding in early stages, startups, for example, we should take into consideration the following fact. It's not necessary to hire a designer to do your branding. Like, you can create a very simple logo even with, sorry Plamen for saying this, but you can create even logo with Helvetica.
I'm good with that.
Yes, we've seen many examples
but
like this.
Fabric Grotesque is better.
Fabric Grotesque is better, exactly. So you can manage somehow to cut costs from design. You can find a very nice team on Webflow or WordPress and build your site. Like, you can even vibe code it. Everything you can vibe code everything. The thing is just to be consistent in your messaging and in the way you communicate. Because what I've seen in not only tech founders, but I've also noticed it among our clients. We work a lot with the food industry, and one of our clients was owning something like 22 brands. And we were doing rebranding of all these 22 brands. And what I've noticed is that we did our job. I'm quite happy with that. But after that, nobody cared about it. Like, everybody working on that brand were not respecting the definitions that we created, which the reason for that is not our role. The reason for that is that the company was not ready to handle the branding the right way. So my advice to everybody in the tech field would be not trying to make your logo nicer. Don't invest a lot of money into websites. Don't hire agencies even, because at the stage you're not aware where you want to go. You are testing your messaging. You are testing your values. Like, you are bringing clarity. And when you hire experts like everybody here in the room, we can't help you with your brand because you're not clear what your brand is. So first step, define your brand very well, what you stand for, where you want to go. And then step by step, start from somewhere, try to bootstrap it in a way, but be consistent and document everything.
Know where you're going is very good advice.
If I may follow up something, sorry, Kiril.
No, it's all right.
So I completely agree with Zlati. early stage is for lean approach, and lean approach is not to hire an expensive agency to help you build a brand, because you don't need this brand yet. You need product market fit, you need profit, and you need to make it sustainable for some time. When this time comes and you're at the stage of scale up, then think, at least then think about something more long term, hiring a professional to help you with this identity, this branding, this narrative, and then consistently check in with this professional through the years. So each year at least 2 or 3 times maybe, or even a monthly basis, to see how things are changing and how the brand evolves. This is one thing. Here I think the technology and AI can help a lot with the dynamic brands, because nowadays we are seeing, as part of the deliverables, even markdown documentation, part of the assets that you're delivering to the client, etc. And you're kind of writing really carefully and in depth how the system works, so that an AI agent can read it. And it's really similar to, for example, app or web design, where you can change a small thing by just one line of code. Here, with these instruments, like the Markdown, for example, deliverable file, you can just change a couple of lines, and then the brand can kind of be live and dynamic, and can be just living through the perspective of what's happening around it.
Okay, and I think Kiril has lots of interesting stories, about ultimately turning those even commodity products into something that people connect to. So can you share something?
Yes, but if you allow me just to take some things from Plamen's point of view, and I just pick up something which relates to AI, which is scaling up. I fully agree with Zlati. In the beginning, you need to have your clarity, and as I said, you need to know what do you want to do with your brand or your business concept. But let's say we talk about brands today. The danger here is, the challenge is that the AI is giving you a big dynamics, and it's giving you the sense of multiplying and scaling up things. But the challenge is that you may scale up the wrong things. And scaling up the wrong things, the amplification now in the digital environment is so big that you cannot scale down. So be careful from the beginning. If you're scaling, you need to scale something which is quite let's say clear from the perspective of what you want to achieve. And I relate to what Zlati says. In the digital environment, you can have your tests, you can have your small, test markets. We have done this in the classic marketing. You don't start, covering a huge territory of a country at once with one brand, but you have the ability to test in a certain area, certain critical market, and then you go ahead and scale. But scaling today is far more dangerous for your brand. But scaling as well is unfortunately having another difference for the AI era. It's when people are scaling up average, how can I say, average brand lookalikes, you are making a benchmark and standard of the market, which is quite dangerous, because the perceptions of the people would satisfy with a certain level of averageness in branding, which could be bad. It could be good for good brands to excel and to have peaks. But for setting a perception of what a good brand is, the AI or the use of AI without being skillful in, for example, in marketing or brand building, can give quite an average and flat, beautiful, wrong reality. But in terms of going back to your question about the feelings and creating things from commodity to something that resonates, I remember once I have decided to move from Heineken to Unilever, and in Heineken it's all about beer, it's all about emotion, it's all about branding. We have achieved a lot of success with transforming really iconic brands in Bulgaria into new dimensions. And suddenly I arrive in Unilever, and in Unilever, the backbone at that time of the foods, backbone of Unilever in Bulgaria was margarine, even globally margarine. So you're shocked. So how do you make people feel anything about the margarine? And how do you relate to the margarine? And that's a very strange thing. What is interesting is that when you talk about feelings as such, they are the the conscious translator of your past stories. And you can, it's not something, and they resonate emotions in a different storytelling. So the way that, for example, I feel about BMW would be different than Plamen's feeling. Even if we say that, yeah, we feel the same. No. But actually, you don't create feelings in marketing. You don't create feelings. You create values. You create benefits. You translate the benefits into motivations. This is how, for example, in the margarine case, we went up from the cup of margarine. I'm not talking about the redesign and all the beautiful things. Of course, these are part of the brand assets and elements. But we went on the sandwich ground. When the sandwich creates a very different emotion to the mothers, because they want to feed properly their children, and the sandwiches are part of their proper nutrition in a lot of cultures. And margarine, maybe it's a very small part of it, but we have played the card so well that this is the lubricant. This is the start of the sandwich. Sandwich is not a sandwich without a margarine. So you make a kind of a feeling that this is something that this is the foundation of the sandwich. And then we rebranded a part of our portfolio at that time, Kaliakra, into Kaliakra Classic and Kaliakra Sandwich, so that we have taken the sandwich territory and we moved away from the blunt margarine into an emotional driven category which satisfies the needs of our customers. Because if we were talking about mothers, we were talking about their children, we're talking about their family, etc., etc. So yeah, a lot of stories, but we don't create feelings. We are building on motivations. Like it or not, a human being has a certain limit of motivations, 8 type of motivations, and you are kind of yourself. For example, you have one more big tendency towards one of those, or inclination towards one of those motivations. And it's important for us as marketeers to understand where are our prospects, what are our prospects motivated from, and kind of average this into your brand. That's why I don't quite agree with how do you call it, personal targeting of the digital, because you can never be personal. I mean, it's kind of a false, unfortunately, my thinking. It's a false promise.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Why
Yes.
AI cannot automate this process of understanding humans ultimately?
Going back into, it's an equation. So AI, it's an algorithm. So it can give you quite a good average description of your potential client or customer, or exploring it with the right prompts, with the right questions, and digging into what you would like to achieve. But it cannot give you the insight. It cannot give you the human. It cannot give you the human prospect of how to reach these people, how to answer their needs. Simply because their needs are still coming from the human perspective. I believe that AI can be very helpful if you want to dig down with human prompts and human insights, digging for more for a better insight, but at the same time being able to arrange and sort out. That's a different story. AI can help you to sort out and arrange, and even be good in the mathematics of the algorithm. But it's very difficult to without the human prompt to achieve to achieve a good insight. And one step back, if you would like to base, if we talk about creativity, you are talking about the creativity of a person. I would say for a purpose of a brand, there is a targeted creativity, because people and machines can be very differently creative. Zlati was saying a creative jam. So you can ask AI anything. So give me an idea about designing a fantastic chair, for example. And it can be a mashup of ideas, but is this chair going to be comfortable for you and purposely creative for you? It's another story, because if I want to say, give me a very good creative idea for a chair for a senior person, from let's say 60 years and above, who has back pains and things like this, this is where you can get your creativity right. The purposeful creativity again goes back to human insights and motivations, because if you rebrand OMV, for example, you don't start from let's rebrand something, let's do it in a way. You start from the source of the brand, and then you elevate through customers, consumers, and the way you want to project it.
Okay, I will quickly add, because what Kiril said is really important. The brand has to be purposeful. Purpose is built through connections. Connections are built through quality insights. What AI is not good is that to achieve these insights, we need this human connection, and we drive it from our experience as a human being. And as a human being, you have to embrace everything in your life as experience, including the mistakes and the imperfections, which come to the abstract thinking that you need to achieve this connection and these insights, which unfortunately or fortunately, AI is not good at. And the day it starts to be good at, this is AGI in our space.
Just to add about the stories, when we talk about when we talked about feelings, for example, it goes back and roots back to the interpretation or the story that we tell ourselves, and then we define a feeling. And the storytelling is very much related to the human past, and the way that we resonate. Even if the kids are not reading stories like we used to be, but still the human brain is adaptive to this right storytelling. So with all the imperfections of the stories, with all the good things or bad things in the stories, we go back to the human roots, and we associate ourselves with that. A perfect storytelling may not be. We know the models of storytelling, of course. The big movie companies, that there is a bad guy and the good guy, and then
and the guy
goes in the good emotions, and then
and
whatever. But this is exactly what AI can offer you. A modeling, but within this modeling, the human touch, the human experience, the human input, all the way. It's quite important to achieve a human face of branding. Because when you talk about brand, I always talk about a human. It has human dimensions. You need to, with the brand, you need to relate as you relate with a human being, which is a very interesting thought that I have. How do you relate, guys, with ChatGPT, for example? Yeah. Do you have names?
For ChatGPT.
Do you call him her? I don't know.
My love.
It becomes very human, so it's okay.
To be honest, I'm giving names to my agents.
To your agents.
Yeah, my agents always have a profile picture and a name, but that's a different
But why?
story. Because, as I said in the very beginning, giving a name to something is a very natural human thing we all need to
Branding.
have.
It's
It's
called
branding.
branding.
Yeah, it's called branding. Exactly.
branding, by the way.
Exactly. What I think in the Central and Eastern Europe we are safe, and we are still safe in terms of AI, is that all models are not well trained with our local languages. And when Kiril and Plamen are mentioning about our perception, motivation, human experience, life experience, etc., what I want to add to that conversation is actually the culture scape, because all of these motivations, all of these experiences are coming from the culture we lived in. They come from our metaphors about life. And these metaphors are built within our family, within our environment. And if I can give a practical example regarding that, the European Union had created one research for Generation Alpha, and not Generation Alpha, sorry, for the Millennials and Gen Z. And the interesting thing is that they are trying to find the common patterns in thinking in those generations. The paper is quite big if someone is willing to read it, but long story short, the generation, specifically millennials in Bulgaria, are completely different from millennials in the Western world. And the reason is that because that generation grew up in the environment of transformation, of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Like, you were raised in a family from the Soviet Union, and Soviet Union is specifically historical thing for Eastern Europe. And when we talk about millennials, we say, yeah, millennials, but the motivations of millennials in the Western world are different from the motivations of millennials, for example, in the Eastern world. And all these models in AI, they are trained for the universal level of motivations. And if I can go deep, even they're not regional. Like, if we talk about millennials, we talk about the motivations of millennials in general in the developed countries, in the US, in Canada. And if we put that localization, we will see that actually it's different. And when we create brands, we want to talk to a particular group of people, not to everybody. Like, I want to talk to millennials and Gen Zs, for example, in Eastern Europe. I don't want to communicate with the millennials in the US. So if I rely as a professional to AI to build me the messaging, to build me the strategy, I will fall up into maybe the mistake to create something for an audience that actually won't resonate, because they're lacking that context. So this is what I think it's important to be aware of when we're working with AI.
Yeah. One thing just to take
yeah,
from
I also
there.
want to tell me.
Sorry. One thing, because it's funny. When you talk about the average, okay, it's nothing bad to have the average knowledge of a certain generation, for example, or certain targeted audience. But AI reminds me of something that I would offer you as an example. In a developed country, everybody knows, for example, in our region, let's take the Balkan region. If I give you one Dove soap, I don't need to explain how you're going to use it. I'm sure that all of you are going to use it the same way. The same way, 99.9%. But if I give to all our neighboring countries, inclusive us, for example, a mayonnaise, you will see a huge difference. We are spreading. Other countries are using mayonnaise only as a topping on a salad, etc., etc. That's going back to the what Zlati is saying. The power of context, which Malcolm Gladwell, I'm a big fan of his, defines as very important, and I fully agree. The power of context is making these cultural differences getting more or less relevant. If I dress myself as if for example an American person comes to Bulgaria and dresses himself as a traditional Bulgarian, it does not make him Bulgarian. Or if you have Bulgarian roots, for example, and your father and your mother are Bulgarian, but you are raised in Germany, it is not as if you are rooted in the culture. And that's why, coming from the average, I think we should take into consideration very much the local specifics, which still for AI it's difficult to take as a summary.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a very, very good argument, and it's true that like most of the LLMs, they're trained on Western alphabets, Western aesthetics, Western preferences. So here, the follow-up question I want to ask is like, okay, it is very important to have this local cultural context, but how do you actually stay competitive, like as a founder, as a marketing manager, because like you have the people who are using Quote and OpenAI who don't have this local context, but then in most cases you still don't have like a good local alternative on the LLM level, and you're not that efficient.
Yes, well, the thing is what you want to achieve at the end of the day. I think we should. I know that everybody here listening to that episode is quite aware of the fact who is Simon Sinek, and his books start with why. Actually, this is very important because when we know why we're doing something, why it's important to us, then we can decide how to proceed. Sometimes, if you want to go global, it's not, maybe it's not worth it to spend that much time becoming, I don't know, the core preference of the local market, because your goal is like far away. It's bigger. You have bigger dreams. Sometimes, in other cases, specifically if you're building a consumer product that is physical, local perspective is very important because exactly like Kiril said, we're using mayonnaise in different ways. So if for your brand, expanding on other local markets is an important thing within your strategy, then you have to focus on that local perspective and adapt and just adapt. So I think it's a second level of branding, and this is the level of scaling up, because first we just start locally, no matter where. We test and validate on kind of a local market. Your local market could be like developing a product in Bulgaria and taking for a local market, Germany, for example. It doesn't matter, but we always start with only one market. When we go global, again, we should be aware of the local context in particular countries, because sometimes these are the funny mistakes in branding. Even in messaging, one thing in Bulgaria could mean something sexual in another country, for example. And I have a recent example talking with people from Argentina who are telling me, you know what was the funny thing when we arrived in Spain? Because some of the words in our Spanish variation in Argentina actually are normal words, but here they have sexual context. And when we say it, and they were referring to for example, to the verb do, like in English, I do something, and we use do a lot in our sentences as a construct. It's the same way in Spanish, but apparently that do verb is sexual in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but I'm referring to the point that when you go global, we have to be aware of all these small aspects of the brand.
The famous Mitsubishi Pajero mistake.
That's interesting. I don't know.
People may want to check it, but it's very important for
the Mitsubishi. So we
Pajero
don't make
as a wording which was inappropriate for some markets. And,
I think you should share it right now because you mentioned it.
It has a different sexual context for some Latin American markets, and it sounds insultive as a name. So a very nice global brand, which has failed to take into account a local reality. But just if you're approaching a global platform, AI can be very useful because it can give you the let's say the plateau. It can give you all the points which matter for example, for millennials around the world, and you can expand on that let's say global platform, and you can have a specific brand touch points and activations for your local markets, which is part of the, let's say, brand building aspect. You don't go on a hugely local base, but you are connecting with consumers on their local let's say, understanding for this product group or whatever brand you are doing. So AI can be very useful for mapping the average profile, for example, or going deep for millennials or for any type of targets. But you still have how to scale up, and you still have how to localize, and it's about to find the balance.
It's like a dance.
Yes, but when we talk about the really deep local insights, it is a human. It's a human it's a human contribution
Exactly.
to extract it
Exactly.
and to make a strong.
And
Sorry for that, Plamen.
if I may add up, the question was how we kind of react and how we work in this local context. Let's not forget that, okay, these are trained models, someone trained them, this algorithm, etc. It's mostly in US, but we are giving the context. So we are gathering all of the context that is needed. This is part of our job for this project. One, and I'm not afraid what will be the result, because I'm giving the context, but I'm not letting AI to make the decision. Here's what is really important. We as creatives, as professionals, we have to make the decision. We have to connect the dots. And I can give you an example. Not a local brand, but the brief was with really interesting local nuance. Kiko Milano, this is a global makeup brand. We've rebranded made a typeface for them a few years ago, working with them to this day. The most important thing was that we had to achieve the Italian beauty, making the typeface. Okay. I started iterating with AI, giving all the context that needs to be given, make this research, etc. The outcomes of ideas that I brainstormed were laughable. It was from Sofia Loren to Milano Fashion Week, etc. Nothing works. I was hopefully spent 10 minutes and said, this is BS. I won't continue iterate with this. Usually what I do this huge mind maps, and I start to place random stuff even. And I'm from one point placing the brand attributes and attributes from the brief. From other perspective, I'm adding a lot of the typographical terms that I need to kind of construct the typeface. And I start connecting the dots. And some history, like history of typography, of type design. And what is really important for the Western scripts, even Bulgarian, because Bulgarian, Latin scripts, they're all derived from Greek, is that the capital forms are based till this day on the proportions and the design of triangle column centuries ago, which is in Italy. So I said, okay, this is the ultimate beauty in type design. Why not connect the dots? So I kind of take some elements of those letters, proportions, etc., and I translated this into a contemporary type of font, because this one will feel historic. And when I matched those dots, they said, okay, that's our typeface. Good luck for AI to do that.
Okay.
It's difficult. I absolutely agree with Plamen regarding how we structure our message. AI can give us ideas, but maybe the mistakes we are doing as humans is that we are outsourcing our decision-making process. We should use AI just as a tool to amplify our skill set, but not to delegate the decision-making, the strategic thinking, the critical thinking on AI, because it will fail us. This is actually the
judgmental phase, how you judge things.
Yes,
we
should judge.
Which is positive, which is negative, which
absolutely
is questionable.
The good thing about AI, in terms of UX also, is that it can give you, for example, if you're entering a new market with your app, of course, you have to adapt the UX of your app because experiences across countries are different. For example, AI can help you to build these edge cases, because if even your team could be extremely expert in building apps for, decades, yet, if they are not experienced on a particular market, they are not aware where the hidden rocks could be. And AI can help you just to have an overview of a lot of possible edge cases that you can take into consideration in order to build something nice. And it's the same with branding. And I think the second thing is that no matter what kind of rebranding you're doing, you have to own your decisions and own the brand, because sometimes everybody could make a mistake. AI is making mistakes even. So when we make a bet decision, let's say, which is quite human and quite normal, then how we will own that decision in order to keep developing our brand in a very good way. Because often what happens is that when a brand makes a mistake with their rebranding and they see hatred coming from people, or maybe people are going to mock the brand in a way, they just freeze and they don't know how to handle that conversation from there. And successful brands are actually sometimes through humor or other approaches, handle that mistake in a way that actually creates even more pleasant image of the brand. So another thing that I think is important as well is just owning your decisions, and you can own them when they're yours, not when they're coming from the AI.
Because there was a discussion about who has the responsibility of that mistake. So is the AI responsible for that mistake? Is the AI carrying the responsibility of that mistake?
In the end of the day, you decided to let the AI
Absolutely.
make the decisions.
Absolutely. So if you have to, it's like 0 or 1. Yes, you are responsible at the end of the day. You delegate to a certain extent, but you need to have the decision making and the ownership and the guidance within you, because AI is not responsible. Oh.
Yeah, of course, because it's a tool.
Well, that was a very, very interesting discussion about that.
On a philosophical level, like if we look at the world at scale, AI can still, shape the development of society and what's good, what's bad, and it can still lead the world not necessarily in a good direction. And I think the interesting aspect of the whole brand vocalization is exactly around preserving cultural heritage and identity in a way. And all of you have done different projects related to that. Plamen has put a lot of effort in putting the Cyrillic on the global stage. Zlatina has her own Azbuki project, like the Guide Sofia, probably a few more that I don't remember. With Kiril, he has worked on many deeply local brands like Bella, Zagorka, and others. So here the question is actually why it's important to preserve this local identity and heritage for the good of the world.
I think it's because the world is created as a diversified world, and everyone has its contribution one way or another. And with scaling up, you are scaling up as well your contribution to the world. Now with the AI, I believe it's a bit philosophical, but you scale up your heritage into the global world and field. But every culture has its uniqueness. Every culture has the sense of belonging. And as I would say, why I would offer your question, why should we keep our family roots or our family values? Why should we not share a global family mindset, for example? Because you as a human being, you belong. You resonate to your closer society, to your local roots. That's why preserving the local roots is not just keeping the preservation for its sake, but as well contributing by opening up yourself to the global world with your contribution in whatever you do. If even any prompt that you do for the AI theoretically helps AI to learn, but it's what Plamen was saying, it's your local input. The way that I carry my family roots and my family values, and I'm open to the world, I contribute with this knowledge and my contacts to a lot of people. So local has a meaning, not just to be rooted in the past, but to develop yourself and the others in a different way. It's philosophical, but AI is helped. If I go back to AI is helped by human bringing prompts. Even if AI linguistically is a lot of English and American and Spanish, whatever. I believe that every contribution matters to that. That's why every local contribution matters to the global well-being.
On top of that, a local narrative brings another dimension of differentiation, which is important in the positioning. You cannot position successfully without being different in any way. Of course, you can position as a completely mediocre and average company. That's okay if you want that, but I don't want to live in this world.
That was good.
Maybe I will be the party pooper and just simplify a little bit the deep conversation we're having here, but because it makes the world more colorful. Like as human beings, I absolutely agree with the fact that we have a deep need to belong. And actually, one of the challenges in our day, especially in digital world, is that people don't feel like they belong anywhere. And we tend to join online communities, Facebook groups, etc., because we have that deep need. We are a tribe. We survived as human beings being part of a tribe. And that's why when you're outside of the tribe, you feel like you will die. And being excluded is actually one of the biggest fears a human being could have. Why you don't validate me? Why you don't like me? Why you don't like my work? I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to feel like I belong, and you can see me. And this is another layer. But on a culture, on a local culture level, I think, especially in Europe, the politic of the European Union is to preserve diversity. We are very strong in that sense, and actually, there is something called. I don't know if you're aware, it's a little bit language related, but there is a category of small languages. And Bulgarian, for example, is part of these small languages. How they're categorized by the number of people speaking a particular language. And actually, the European Union is putting a lot of efforts to preserve these small languages. Even Italian is a small language, by the way, which quite surprised me when I came across that information. So when we are preserving our roots, we actually can create a better future, because without having roots, we will do what? We will prompt our future. We will prompt our creativity, but it's not the same. Like the deepness, the vertical, even if emotions is missing in a way, but in the same time, and why I'm saying I'm the party pooper in a way, I believe. I believe.
No party pooping till now.
Start the party pooping.
No.
Start the party pooping. Let's do it. I also believe that we shouldn't only limit ourselves within the local perspective, because sometimes in countries, especially small countries like ours here in Bulgaria, we feel we belong too much to Bulgaria in a way that we exclude the rest of the world. And I'm a big fan personally not to limit ourselves and to put ourselves in that kind of situations, but to be to live in a unity. Like, for me, when we live in a unity with the rest of the world, we can achieve more, we can have a better sense of belonging, we can even preserve our heritage, cultural, or even art heritage in a way. We can preserve all of that. But when we limit ourselves, we live in a sense of competition. Like, I'm better than you are. Our country is older than you and than yours country. Our language is better. Even with Cyrillic alphabet, I'm sure Plamen can share this, but there are so many forms of Cyrillic alphabet. And when you talk with people who are not very aware of the fact, they are like, no, the Cyrillic alphabet is only Bulgarian. All other Cyrillic alphabets, they are bad, they are fake, they're not real, etc. Which is not true. Like, we all use that alphabet and we all share that energy of the alphabet. So why should we compete one with another in that sense? And my point of view is that, yes, we keep the local thing, but always try to be global, to be open-minded, to be open to the world.
But let's be very fair. If the local matters to us, the locals matters to us. So what is, if you don't, I go back to the branding in AI. What if somebody from I don't know, name it a European country, doesn't know anything about Bulgaria. So why should it matter? So if we are preserving some things as a local relevance, and we believe that this is strong, let's make it a brand. Let's make a Bulgaria more of a brand, and let's use this one to popularize some things that we would like to bring into the global contribution. The same is valid for Italy or for UK. Or there are certain countries that have bigger penetration into local cultures than the others. But if I go back to branding, I would advise these countries like us. We are not a small country. The perception is about small country. How can we brand our country better so that we can bring some valuable assets, brand assets, to the European Union, for example. And this would be my advice.
Yeah.
Let's brand ourselves. Staying local is just wishful thinking that we one day will be global. I just want to belong to a bigger society, and I would like to contribute to a certain society.
I can follow up on that. We are definitely. We have to definitely use the Cyrillic as part of our identity because after we entered the European Union, the Cyrillic script is the third official script in the European Union after the Latin and the Greek. Another thing is that Cyrillic actually was derived in our lands. So we definitely have to use that as a kind of brand narrative of Bulgaria, and I think we do it successfully. We can even do more. We as a company embrace it, of course. We make Cyrillic in all of our typefaces, and we also make the local Bulgarian oval Cyrillic as part of the identity that we want to achieve. And it's a matter of the company, like our company, to position itself in a certain way. So nowadays, if you search in LLMs for a global type founder that has to be involved in a project with Latin and Cyrillic and Greek or Arabic, etc. If Cyrillic is there, we will be one of the top choices.
Yeah. Also, when we started Azbuki as a project, actually because it's related to fonts, our goal was to raise awareness of people that there are different forms of Cyrillic alphabet. Because very often the narrative looked like this. We say, exactly like Plamen said, this is the third official alphabet within the European Union. At the same time, we are using the Russian Cyrillic most of the time because of the typefaces that we are choosing. So the goal of our project was just to raise awareness of people and say, there is a Bulgarian form of Cyrillic alphabet. We should acknowledge that, and you should just be informed how it looks like, how you can use it. And when we started the project, I remember with my team, we were a little bit quite skeptical about the result of it. And I remember having a discussion about, okay, but this is a very designer thing, like how you would explain to the majority of people in Bulgaria that Bulgarian Cyrillic matters. Like it felt, for me, at that point, it felt very challenging as a situation, but it turns out that the society embraced the topic a lot to a level that when I look at the project, the traction of the project is huge. People were joining the project from all around the world, and I started seeing references to Azbuki in schools, in galleries. Like, it's crazy. The impact of the project was crazy, and it made me happy that we raised the awareness. Like, we don't pretend to build the best typefaces because we're not professionals, Fontfabric are, but we want to just use our tribune and platform to communicate, guys, you should be aware that there are different forms of Cyrillic, and do it in a very nice, very positive way, going out of the negative narrative.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about branding for humans. What happens when we start more and more delegating shopping and business decisions to AI agents? So I tell Claude or ChatGPT, find me 5 beers to try in the next month and keep my fridge full. And like in the chat, like there is again, no brand asset, no logo, no typefaces, no identity. Like it depends on how you prompt it as an end user. But at the end of the day, like in most cases, it really strips any message that you have. So as a brand builder, what you can do to preserve some part of that brand identity in the chatbot?
Okay.
Yeah, Plamen.
I've just mentioned that we've positioned in these chatbots, and I think I have this is a clear proof that the branding, like we started the conversation, it's not a logo, it's not a visual asset. The brand building involves the messaging, the positioning, etc. If this is done right, in enough time, you will gain traction. And actually, those models, they gain information from the digital world and internet, etc. They scrape all of this information. If you do things right and you are positioned with the good messaging, you're describing your product, services, you're building your brand, your presence in the social media, etc., you will be there. So I think this works for us, and I think this proves that the branding as a holistic process is most important than ever right now. So this is what I would advise the other companies. When you reach to the level out of your small bubble, if you're starting up, you're gaining processes, you're establishing your product services, you're being lean. When you go to the level that you have to outperform, you have to reach another market, you have to scale up, then be really mindful how you do your branding, because you have to really position yourself, and then those referrals from ChatGPT and from Claude and from Gemini will be important for you.
Exactly. I agree with the same thing. Actually, if you do your work properly within the digital world, nobody needs to see your logo. Like, do you guys need to see Nike's logo? When you hear Nike, all these associations appear in your mind. This is the power of branding. And I want to share a story from our portfolio with a very big client. Actually, it's a global brand. They're working on 80 markets worldwide. And I remember having the following conversation regarding one of their brands. They said, we are in a very huge pain. When you hear this coming from an enterprise client, it could mean a lot of things, but you start wondering, like, guys, okay, you're generating like hundreds of millions per year. What is exactly your pain? And I remember the brand manager told me the following thing. The pain is that we're selling a lot. And I start thinking, that's terrible. Yeah, that's a problem that everybody wants to have, right? And they said, no, you don't understand. The issue is that we are selling a lot our product, but there is zero brand loyalty. And we know that for us, the cost of keeping our customers is actually very high because we don't have a brand loyalty. And tomorrow, when they go to the supermarket and they see a competitor's brand like a couple of cents cheaper than ours, then they will buy the competitor brand. And we are in a stage in our product building process where we see that we did a huge mistake by not developing our brands and just investing in marketing, performance, sales. And they said, we are literally, I remember we were talking about the market in Romania, and they said, we are literally the second company on the market, like we are holding almost 50% of the market. Yet our issue is that for us, at that point, it is expensive to retain our customer base because there is zero loyalty. So in a way, it aligns with what Plamen is saying. Be smart and don't try to avoid the decisions on how we will communicate today with our audience.
There is it's a big question, but as you referred to beers, or I can take the example from the fast-moving consumer goods or food products. Luckily, first of all, we don't spend our whole life in the virtual reality, and I believe that this will be the case. The penetration will be bigger. And that's the reason why we're building the brands into the minds of our prospects, in minds of our consumers. And if you strip the chatbot off the logos and everything, it goes back to the building the right associations versus with using different touch points with the consumer or customer. so that you build the right imaginary and you build the right reputation, and you are prompting for the people to give the right reviews for your brand and for your business. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal would be, I would be very disappointed if I let my chatbot bring me a beer. I am, as a person, I'll be very disappointed. I believe that a lot of people would associate it. But if we talk about the brand, the brands should be much more readable from and understood by machines and chatbots, based on the clarity that we give to consumers and our customers. And when my ultimate goal would be not to say to the chatbot, bring me a beer, but bring me that brand of a beer. Yes. This would be the ultimate goal of a person who wants to build a brand and follows the process or whatever. I would not let it to the stage that a person who pretends to build brands would be satisfied by a choice being driven by a machine, while the product that is dedicated to a person. So if I've done my job correctly, my ultimate target should be the person. AI still is not drinking a beer.
Final thoughts. Is there anything that you weren't able to say in the past 3 hours?
Oh my God, 3 hours passed already. Well, I want to maybe take advantage to make the following advice coming from the whole design industry. Please, guys, stop making the logo bigger. Like, bigger logo doesn't mean a stronger brand. So my final words are don't make the logo bigger. Just put the story behind that logo.
I would say to everyone, don't handle the decision-making process to AI. Trust your gut and take responsibility.
Good. I would add immediately, guys, please use AI responsibly, especially when you're dealing with brand development and brand building. Keep your decisions, keep your human input with it.
Yeah.
Use it responsibly.
As Spider-Man would say, with big AI comes big responsibility.